My name is Heather Tomberlin. I'm a Christian, and I have autism. It's been a journey because it's not easy to live with, but I'm making it. And I've been learning that God made me to think differently for a reason. Hi everyone, Heather here. Welcome back to another episode of Heather's Autism Journey. So lately I've been seeing a lot of what you shouldn't say to people with autism videos, and I thought I'd do one of my own. So mine's going to be a little bit different. It's basically the same video, but I'm titling it something different. Okay, so this is my video called 7 Ways You Should Never Respond When Someone Tells You That They're Autistic. So these responses are responses that I've gotten, or friends have gotten, or responses that I've read on Instagram or heard on those YouTube videos. And I'm going to end the video by telling you the absolute worst response I've ever gotten when I told someone I was autistic. So without further ado, here we go. The first response that I've gotten this response more than any response in the world, and that's why I put this at number 1. And you can word this either way. The wording I usually get is, I never would have guessed. And then some people word it as, you don't look autistic. Well, that may sound like a compliment, but the reason that's not a good way to respond is because, well, what does autism look like? There's a certain look to autism. Am I supposed to look apart for you to believe that I'm really autistic? The medical term for autism is ASD, which stands for Autism Spectrum Disorder. So it's a spectrum. So that means it's going to be different for everybody who has it. And because it's a spectrum, you shouldn't expect there to be a certain way that everyone with autism acts or thinks or looks or talks or stims or whatnot. There are some things that a lot of people with autism have in common, but we don't have everything in common. Like sensory is one thing. I can't stand it when things are too loud, but my friend Ryan, who's autistic, he loves loud music to the point where he'll actually turn up his headphones up to the max. Those are things that are kind of different, you know? When it comes to autism, expect the unexpected. You can't expect all of us to act the same just because we have the same diagnosis. Okay, so phrase number 2, you can't be autistic. And you can fill in that blank with whatever. People have filled in the blank by saying, you can't be autistic, you can drive. You can't be autistic, you're married. You can't be autistic, you have kids. You can't be autistic, you have a job. Here's the most insulting one. You can't be autistic, you have friends. What? Oh my gosh. This is the weirdest one. I've read this on an Instagram post. Somebody actually had this response. This is probably the weirdest one I've ever heard. You can't be autistic, you wear makeup. What's makeup have to do with it? Okay, I get it. Makeup's a little uncomfortable, but I'll wear it on special occasions. I wore it tonight to shine last week. This is what I was talking about with the first one. It's a spectrum, so you can't expect everybody with autism to be the same. And people with autism can do things that people without autism do. They can have a job. They can get a driver's license. They can get married. They can have children. Those are things that I strive to do. I have a driving test coming up pretty soon, and my next video is going to be all about that. I'm not vlogging it. I can't vlog that, but I'm going to do a video where I talk about it. So yeah, saying you can't be autistic because you've got this, you've got that, you can do this, you can do that. There was someone who thought I couldn't be autistic because I can sing. First of all, they've clearly never seen Cody Lee on America's Got Talent. And second of all, that's a terrible thing to assume. Because everyone with autism can do things that people without autism can do. It may take them a little bit longer. They might not get it right off the bat, but they can do it. Okay, the third phrase, this one drives me nuts. Well, everyone's a little autistic. Are you serious? Okay, let me tell you why this one is so wrong. Because first of all, not everyone is autistic. It's a way the mind works. It's a very different way that the brain functions. And not everyone's brain functions that way. So therefore, not everyone is autistic. Nobody is a little autistic. You're either autistic or you're not. It's the way it works. Okay, this fourth one, growing up in church, I've heard this one a few times. And I'm not knocking church. I'm a Christian. I love Jesus. I love church. And I'm not knocking anybody who goes to church for saying this. They have very good intentions when they say this. And the phrase is, I pray that God will heal you from this disease. Okay, first of all, autism is not a disease. It's a different way that the mind works. It's a different way that the brain functions. And I know that autism isn't something that defines me. It's just a part of me. We were actually talking about this at Sunny's last night, that I don't have to label myself autistic. It's only a part of me. It's a part of what comes with me. But what defines me is that I'm a child of God. And I believe that with all my heart. But to say that God can heal me from a way that he made me different, that's not accurate. God doesn't need to heal you from thinking differently. Basically, if you can't die from it, you really don't need healing from it. And you can't die from autism. You can die from cancer. I've lost 2 family members to cancer. I know that all too well. But you can't die from autism. Cancer is a disease. Autism isn't. So stop calling autism a disease and saying that it needs healing, because it really doesn't. Autism is just a different way of thinking. It's just a part of the way that this brain functions, and any other autistic brain. Now again, churchgoers mean well when they say that. I know they do. They just want to be positive, and they want to encourage you and help you to believe that there is a God who can heal. And I definitely believe that. Pierced for our transgressions, crushed by our iniquities, chastisement that brought us peace was upon him, and by his wounds we are healed. That's in Isaiah. I definitely believe that with all my heart. But that's from diseases. That's from actual wounds on our bodies. That's not from a different way that the mind works. You don't need healing from your mind working a little bit differently. If it's going to hurt you or somebody else, that's when it needs healing. And autism's not going to hurt you or anybody else. So this next one's a little bit different, because it can be encouraging when you're telling somebody this. So the phrase is, don't use that as an excuse. Now, the way you can say it to encourage somebody would be if they feel like they can't do something because they're autistic. There were times when I felt like, oh, I can't be a writer, I'm autistic. I can't be a singer, I'm autistic. I can't be an actress, I'm autistic. Those are 3 big dreams I've got one day. And in that context, whenever somebody tells me, don't use autism as an excuse, that basically tells me, you can still do it. It doesn't matter if you're autistic or not. You can still do it. Now, saying it that way is very encouraging. But if you just want to tell somebody, I'm autistic, and then they just straight out say, well, don't use that as an excuse. That's not helping anybody at all. That's like saying what you have to tell me about yourself doesn't even matter to me. Just don't even bother. That can be very discouraging. I've never gotten that one myself, but I've read that there's been some people that have. So that's why I wanted to talk about that one. So the next one I'm going to talk about is one that a friend of mine got when her son was being screened for autism. The doctor told her this, legit. Did you know that autistic people have no compassion? Wow, what a way to encourage a parent whose son might be autistic. So, first of all, people with autism can have compassion, and they can know what sarcasm is, because I just did it. When you tell a parent that your child has autism, I'm so sick of hearing about parents getting such negative comments about their child when they learn they're autistic. He's never going to do this. Forget a wedding day. He's never going to get a job. He's never going to drive. He's never going to walk. He's never going to talk. Blah, 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 blah. Stop saying those things. Because most of the time, you're wrong. There are plenty of people with autism who can do all of those things. Plus, there are a ton of people with autism who have compassion. I have a lot of autistic friends with compassion. I've talked about this on my Rain Man video too. It's not that we don't have compassion. There are just times when we don't know how to show it. And I've met people without autism who don't know how to show it. after having 2 deaths in the family. There are some people out there who mean well, but they don't really have a lot of compassion at all. I mean, we've had 2 deaths in the family, my brother and my dad, both to cancer. And one time, somebody legit told my mom, it's time to move on. He wasn't autistic. That was just messed up. Just because you're not autistic doesn't mean you're a compassionate person. It doesn't take having a quote-unquote normal brain to be compassionate. What it takes is to really care about a person. You have to put aside your needs and care about that person. That's what it takes to be compassionate. Now, this is actually a new one I heard just recently that somebody told me when I told them I was autistic. And the phrase was, you don't have to be autistic. What? I'm not choosing it. Okay, I get it. There are some times where you choose a lifestyle and you claim this is who you are when God really didn't make you that way. There are times when that's the case. But when it comes to autism, when it comes to any kind of special need, that's not true. That just means you were created differently. I'm not choosing to be autistic. I mean, if I had my choice, I wouldn't need those noise-canceling earbuds I have to wear every time I'm in a public place where there's going to be a bunch of loud noises, like Night to Shine or church or Sunny's or a concert, anywhere. But I do need them because it's a part of the way autism works for me. And I'm not choosing that. It's a part of me. So there you have it. Those are the 7 responses that you should not use when someone tells you you're autistic. Some of them you mean well. Some of them just sound very insulting, and it sounds like you hate that word for some reason. And now the moment we've all been waiting for. This is the absolute worst response I have ever gotten when I told someone I was autistic. So here's what happened. I was at a restaurant with my family. My brother and dad were still with us at this time. All 4 of us, my parents, my brother, and I, were all sitting at a restaurant together. While we were waiting for our food, I left the table to go to the bathroom. And on my way back to the table, I saw this poster advertising an autism awareness walk. And I thought that was really cool. I'm like, oh my gosh, we're making a lot of progress. This is really cool. Because this was back in like 2017. It was in the 2010s. And I'm like, oh my gosh, we're making progress. People actually want to accurately tell people what this is. That's awesome. And then this lady walked by and heard me saying out loud, oh my gosh, that's awesome. She's looking at the poster and she's like, yeah, that's great. Yeah, that is great. And I tell her, I think it's really cool because I'm autistic. And she goes, wait, you're autistic? I'm like, yeah. And she goes, and she like hesitates for a minute, like she can't believe it. And she just goes, but, you're beautiful. I was like, I didn't even know how to respond. What, does she think you have to be ugly to be autistic? What was she thinking? I don't know. Oh my gosh. If you're autistic, you're not ugly, okay? You are a son or a daughter of the King. You are beautiful. You are fearfully and wonderfully made by our Creator. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with you. Okay, now it's time for this video's Bible verses. There are 2 that I want to read. The first one is from Proverbs 18:13. Most of these responses have to do with people making assumptions about people with autism. And so I found this verse that has to do with making assumptions, and it's in Proverbs 18:13. It says, spouting off before listening to the facts is both shameful and foolish. And there you go. If you've got somebody in your life that's autistic, I highly recommend that you learn about it so that you better know what to expect and how to handle things. Remember, expect the unexpected when it comes to autism because it's different for everyone who has it. No 2 people with autism are alike, just like no 2 people without autism are alike. The second one I want to read is in Genesis. This one is about how God created us. Genesis 1:27 says, so God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created him. Male and female, he created them. God created every single one of us in his image, no matter how we think, no matter how we look, no matter what our voice sounds like when we talk, no matter what our struggles are. We are made in his image, and when we get to heaven, we will fully be the perfect image he's shaping us to be. Always remember that God created you in his image, and you are capable of doing whatever he planned for you to do when he created you. Well, that's it for me. Thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe to this channel because that really helps. And if you like this video, hit the like button. That is what it's for. And comment down below and tell me the worst responses you've ever gotten when you told somebody you're autistic. What's the worst thing somebody said? So I'll see you guys next time. And remember, you were born on purpose for a purpose, and you are fearfully and wonderfully made. See you next time, guys. Bye!